Backstage, Memphis Arena. August 12, 1969. A teenage girl was trying to sell her dying father's guitar for $50. She'd been standing there for 3 hours, tears streaming down her face, clutching a hospital bill she couldn't pay. Nobody had stopped. Nobody had looked. Then Elvis Presley walked by. He saw the guitar. He saw the tears. And what he did next wasn't just kindness. It was a moment that would echo through Memphis for the next 50 years. But first, you need to know why Sarah Mitchell was there that night, and why that guitar meant more than just $50. Before I share this incredible story with you, if you want to discover the most touching moments from the golden era of entertainment, real stories of humanity, and the unknown sides of legends from the 1950s through 1980s, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because the story I'm going to tell you today isn't just about a guitar or a superstar. It's about a father's love, a daughter's desperation, and a moment of grace that nobody saw coming. Sarah Mitchell's story actually began 12 years earlier, in 1957. Her father, Robert Mitchell, was a session musician in Memphis. Not famous, not wealthy, but deeply in love with music. He played guitar for local recordings, backup for singers whose names you'd recognize, and sometimes at Beale Street clubs on Saturday nights. He made $40 a week when work was good, $15 when it wasn't. Robert's most prized possession was his 1952 Gibson J45 guitar. He'd saved for 8 months to buy it. The guitar had a warm, rich tone that made grown men cry when Robert played blues. It cost him $275 in 1952, nearly 2 months' salary. But to Robert, it wasn't just an instrument. It was his voice, his therapy, his connection to something bigger than his small life. When Sarah was born in 1952, Robert would play lullabies on that Gibson every single night. As Sarah grew, she'd fall asleep to the sound of her father's fingers dancing across those strings. By the time she was 5, Sarah could recognize her father's playing in a crowded room. By 7, she was learning chords. By 10, they'd play duets together. Robert on guitar, Sarah singing in a voice that reminded Robert of young Patsy Cline. Music wasn't just entertainment in the Mitchell household. It was the language of love between father and daughter. Every Sunday morning, they'd sit on their front porch, a tiny wooden porch of their rented house in North Memphis, and play for 2 hours. Neighbors would stop, listen, smile. Robert would always say the same thing. Sarah, music doesn't make you rich, but it makes your soul rich. And that's worth more than all the money in the world. Sarah believed him. She believed every word. But in March 1969, everything changed. Robert was working at Sun Studio, helping set up equipment for a recording session. He was carrying an amplifier down the stairs, a heavy Fender Twin that weighed 65 pounds. Halfway down, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. He tried to steady himself, but his legs gave out. He fell down 9 steps, the amplifier crashing beside him. The studio manager called an ambulance. Robert was conscious but couldn't speak. His face was gray, his lips turning blue. Sarah's mother, Linda Mitchell, got the call at 2:47 p.m. She worked as a seamstress at a dry cleaner for miles from Sun Studio. She ran the entire way, arriving at the ambulance just as they were loading Robert inside. At Baptist Memorial Hospital, the diagnosis was devastating. Severe heart attack with significant damage. Robert needed immediate surgery, a coronary bypass operation. But there was a problem. The Mitchell family had no health insurance. Robert's work was freelance, paid in cash, no benefits. The surgery would cost $3,847. The hospital required a $500 deposit before they'd even schedule the operation. Linda and Sarah had $89 in their savings account. Their rent was $45 a month, which they were already 2 months behind on. Linda made $35 a week at the dry cleaner. Sarah was still in high school, 17 years old, with no job. Robert lay in that hospital bed for 4 days while Linda desperately tried to find the money. She went to every bank in Memphis. Every single one rejected her loan application. No collateral, no credit history, no cosigner. She asked relatives, but the Mitchell family was small, and everyone was struggling. She asked friends, neighbors, church members. She collected $127 in donations. Still nowhere near enough. On August 8th, the hospital administrator came to Robert's room, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a clipboard. He spoke quietly, but his words were brutal. "Mrs. Mitchell, we can keep your husband stable for another 72 hours. After that, if you can't provide the deposit, we'll have to discharge him. I'm sorry. This is a private hospital. We have costs." Linda Mitchell broke down in that hallway. Sarah, sitting beside her mother, felt something inside her crack. Her father, the man who'd taught her to sing, to dream, to believe music could save your soul, was going to die because of $500. That night, Sarah made a decision. Sarah knew the Gibson J45 was valuable. Her father had told her stories about it. "This guitar," he'd say, "is worth at least $800 now. Maybe more to the right collector. Vintage Gibsons from the early 50s are becoming rare. $800. If they could sell it, they'd have enough for the surgery deposit and some extra for recovery costs." It felt like betrayal, selling her father's most precious possession, but Sarah knew her father would rather live without the guitar than die with it sitting in a closet. She went to 3 music shops on August 9th. The first shop owner, an old man with tobacco-stained fingers, offered her $200. "It's got somewhere on the neck," he said, though it didn't. The second shop offered $150. "Mark it slow, kid. Best I can do." The third shop owner looked at her with pity and offered $175. Sarah realized what was happening. They saw a desperate teenage girl and knew they could lowball her. She left the third shop feeling hollow. Then she had an idea. A wild, probably impossible idea. But she was out of options. Sarah's best friend, Monica Williams, worked part-time at Memphis Arena. Monica's uncle was a security guard there. On August 11th, Sarah told Monica everything. About her father, the guitar, the deadline. Monica listened, tears in her eyes, and then said something that changed everything. "Elvis is performing tomorrow night, August 12th. It's a private warm-up show before his Vegas residency. The arena will be full of music people, producers, musicians, industry folks. If you could get backstage before the show, maybe someone would buy it. Someone who understands what it's worth." Sarah's heart jumped. "Can you get me backstage?" Monica bit her lip. "My uncle can get you past the first checkpoint. But after that, you're on your own. If they catch you, we're both in trouble." Sarah didn't hesitate. "I'll do it." Sarah left school early that day. She told her mother she was going to try one more music shop. She couldn't tell Linda the truth. Her mother would never allow it. She put on her best dress, a simple blue cotton dress her mother had made. She carefully placed the Gibson in its worn leather case. She'd made a small cardboard sign and taped it to the case. 1952 Gibson J45, $50. She'd lowered the price to $50. Not because the guitar was only worth that, but because she needed money fast. The hospital's deadline was midnight. If she could get $50, she could at least buy her father more time. Maybe negotiate with the hospital for a few more days to gather the rest. At 3:30 p.m., she met Monica outside Memphis Arena. Monica's uncle, Jerry, looked at Sarah with concern. "Young lady, this is risky. If they catch you wandering backstage, I could lose my job." "I understand, sir," Sarah said, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "My father is dying. This is his guitar. It's all I have." Jerry's expression softened. He looked at the cardboard sign, at Sarah's desperate eyes, and he nodded. "Follow me. Stay close. Keep your head down." Jerry got Sarah past the main security checkpoint at 3:45 p.m. He led her down a long concrete corridor, through a maze of hallways that smelled like stale beer and cigarette smoke. Finally, he stopped at a junction where 3 hallways met. "This is as far as I can take you," he said. "People will be walking through here all evening. Band members, crew, producers. Stand here. Try to blend in. And Sarah, good luck." Then he was gone, and Sarah was alone. For the first hour, hardly anyone passed by. A couple of stagehands carrying equipment barely glanced at her. A woman in a pantsuit, talking rapidly on a walkie-talkie, brushed past without making eye contact. Sarah held the cardboard sign up each time someone approached, but they just walked past. By 5 p.m., Sarah was starting to panic. The show was scheduled for 8:30 p.m. Elvis would arrive soon for soundcheck. Once the show started, everyone would be busy. Her window was closing. More people started arriving. Band members, their instrument cases slung over shoulders. Lighting technicians. Sound engineers. Sarah approached a few of them directly. "Excuse me, sir, would you be interested in buying a vintage guitar? It's a 1952 Gibson J45, Only $50. One man laughed. $50 for a Gibson? What's wrong with it? Nothing, Sarah said quickly. I need the money today. The man shook his head and walked away. Another musician stopped, looked at the guitar case, but didn't open it. Kid, I don't carry that kind of cash. Sorry. He disappeared into a dressing room. By 6:30 p.m., Sarah had been standing there for nearly 3 hours. Her feet hurt. Her hands were cramping from holding the sign. And she was crying. She couldn't help it. The tears just came, quietly at first, then harder. She sat down on the floor, leaning against the concrete wall, the guitar case beside her, and she cried. She thought about her father lying in that hospital bed. She thought about her mother, probably sitting beside him right now, holding his hand, praying for a miracle. She thought about the Gibson, this beautiful instrument that had played thousands of songs, that had been her father's companion for 17 years, and how she couldn't even sell it for $50. Sarah didn't hear the footsteps at first. She was too lost in her despair. But then a shadow fell across her, and a voice said, "That's a beautiful guitar case. Mind if I take a look?" Sarah looked up, wiping her eyes. At first, she didn't recognize him. The man standing above her was wearing black pants, a black leather jacket, and sunglasses even though they were indoors. His hair was jet black, styled in a way that looked both casual and deliberate. He had a gentle smile on his face. Then it clicked. The posture, the voice, the unmistakable aura. Elvis Presley. Sarah's breath caught. She tried to speak, but no words came out. She just nodded. Elvis crouched down beside her, his movements slow and deliberate, like he didn't want to scare her. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the guitar case. Sarah nodded again. Elvis opened the case, and his expression changed immediately. He knew guitars. He'd played thousands of them, and he knew quality when he saw it. 1952 Gibson J45. Elvis said softly, running his fingers along the guitar's body. "This is a fine instrument. Very fine." He looked at the cardboard sign still taped to the case. $50. He looked back at Sarah, his brow furrowed. "Sweetheart, this guitar is worth 15, 20 times that much. You know that, right?" Sarah's voice finally returned, shaky and small. "I know, but I don't have time to find a collector. I need $50 right now. Today. Before midnight." Elvis took off his sunglasses. His eyes were kind, but serious. "Why?" Sarah told him everything. She told him about her father, Robert Mitchell, the session musician who'd played on recordings for Sun Records, who'd taught her to sing, who'd given her this guitar to learn on. She told him about the heart attack, the hospital, the $3,847 surgery, the $500 deposit. She told him about the banks, the rejection, the 72-hour deadline that was now down to 5 hours. "My mom doesn't even know I'm here," Sarah said, fresh tears streaming down her face. "She thinks I'm at another music shop. But nobody wants to pay fair price because they can see I'm desperate. So I came here, thought maybe someone backstage would understand. But nobody's stopping. Nobody cares. And I'm running out of time." Elvis listened to every word. He didn't interrupt, didn't rush her. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Your father taught you to play this guitar?" "Yes, sir." "And he told you music makes your soul rich?" Sarah blinked. "How did you?" "Because that's what real musicians say," Elvis replied, a sad smile on his face. "We all know money doesn't come easy in this business. But we do it anyway, because music feeds something deeper." He paused. "Your father sounds like a good man." "He's the best man I know," Sarah whispered. Elvis nodded slowly. Then he looked at the guitar again, his expression thoughtful. Finally, he said, "Sarah, I can't buy this guitar." Sarah's heart sank. Of course. Even Elvis Presley didn't want it. She'd been foolish to think. "I can't buy it," Elvis continued, "because I'm not going to let you sell your father's most precious possession. That wouldn't be right." Sarah looked at him, confused. "But I need." Elvis reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a leather wallet. He opened it, thumbed through several bills, and pulled out a stack. He counted quietly. Then he handed the money to Sarah. $500, Elvis said. "That's for your father's surgery deposit." Sarah stared at the money, not believing what she was seeing. $500. In cash. Exactly what they needed. I can't," she stammered. "Yes, you can," Elvis said firmly. "And you will. You're going to take this money, go straight to that hospital, pay the deposit, and make sure your father gets that surgery." But the guitar, Sarah started. Stays with you. Elvis interrupted. Your father needs that guitar when he recovers. He's going to want to play again. And when he does, I want you to tell him something for me. What? Tell him Elvis Presley said a man who teaches his daughter that music feeds the soul is worth more than all the guitars in the world. Tell him to get well and to keep playing. Memphis needs musicians like him. Sarah couldn't speak. She just cried, holding the money in her shaking hands. $500. Her father was going to live. Elvis stood up, closing the guitar case gently. Now listen to me carefully, Sarah. You need to leave here right now. Don't tell anyone about this conversation. The arena is full of reporters, photographers, people looking for stories. If they find out I gave you money, they'll turn it into a circus. Your father doesn't need that kind of attention right now. Can you keep this between us? Sarah nodded vigorously. Yes, sir. I promise. I won't tell anyone. Good girl. Elvis smiled, then put his sunglasses back on. Now get out of here. Go save your father. Sarah grabbed the guitar case and stood up on wobbly legs. She started to walk away, then turned back. Mr. Presley? Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Elvis just nodded. Then he walked down the hallway toward his dressing room, his hands in his pockets, like nothing unusual had happened. Sarah ran out of Memphis Arena at 6:58 p.m. She didn't stop running until she reached the street. She hailed a taxi, an extravagance they could never afford, but tonight she didn't care. Baptist Memorial Hospital, she gasped. As fast as you can. She arrived at 7:23 p.m. She ran through the hospital corridors, clutching the $500 in her hand, the guitar case banging against her leg. She found her mother in the waiting area outside her father's room. Linda looked up, her eyes red from crying. Sarah? What are you? Where have you been? Sarah didn't answer. She just held out the money. 5 $100 bills. Linda stared at the money like it was a hallucination. Where did you get this? I sold the guitar, Sarah lied. She'd promised Elvis. I found a buyer downtown. He paid fair price. Linda looked at the guitar case Sarah was still holding. But you have the... He's a collector, Sarah interrupted, the lie coming easier now. He said he'd come by next week to pick it up. But he paid me up front. Mom, we have the deposit. Dad can have the surgery. Linda took the money with trembling hands. Then she pulled Sarah into a fierce hug, sobbing. Oh my God, Sarah. You saved him. You saved your father. At 7:45 p.m., Linda gave the hospital administrator the $500 deposit. At 8:30 p.m., the exact moment Elvis Presley was walking on stage at Memphis Arena for his warm-up show, surgeons were prepping Robert Mitchell for emergency coronary bypass surgery. The surgery lasted 6 hours. Robert survived. The operation was successful. Robert Mitchell spent 3 weeks in the hospital recovering. When he finally came home on September 4, 1969, the first thing he saw was his Gibson J45 sitting on the living room couch. He looked at Sarah, confused. Honey, I thought you sold it. Your mother said you sold it to pay for the surgery. Sarah had rehearsed this moment. I did, Dad. But the buyer, he was a musician. He understood what the guitar meant. So he gave it back. Said you'd need it when you recovered. Robert picked up the guitar with shaking hands. He strummed a few chords. The sound was as warm and rich as ever. Tears rolled down his face. Whoever that buyer was, he said quietly, I owe him everything. Sarah just smiled. Sarah Mitchell kept Elvis's secret for 11 years. She told no one, not her friends, not her teachers, not even Monica. She'd made a promise, and she intended to keep it. But in 1980, something happened that changed everything. Robert Mitchell, now fully recovered and still playing music at age 61, was invited to play at a tribute concert for Elvis Presley, who had passed away in 1977. The concert was being held at Memphis Arena, the same venue where Sarah had met Elvis 11 years earlier. During rehearsal, Robert was talking to other session musicians who'd worked with Elvis over the years. They were sharing stories, remembering the king. And Sarah, now 28 years old, married with a daughter of her own, realized something. Elvis was gone. The promise had been about protecting him from media attention while he was alive. Now, his legacy deserved to include this story. So Sarah told her father the truth. Everything. The backstage encounter, the $500, Elvis's words about musicians who feed the soul. Robert listened in stunned silence. When Sarah finished, he didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, He gave you $500? For nothing? Just because. Just because you taught me that music feeds the soul, Sarah replied. He said to tell you that a man who teaches his daughter that is worth more than all the guitars in the world. Robert Mitchell cried then. Deep, body-shaking sobs. Not from sadness, but from overwhelming gratitude toward a man he'd never met, who'd saved his life 11 years earlier. That night, at the tribute concert, Robert played the 1952 Gibson J45 and dedicated his performance to the king who saved a session musician's life without asking for anything in return. The story slowly spread through the Memphis music community. By 1982, it had been published in a local newspaper. By 1985, it was included in several Elvis biographies. Today, the story of the $50 guitar is part of Elvis Presley's legend, one of countless moments of private generosity that he never publicized, never bragged about, never used for PR. Sarah Mitchell is 73 years old now. As of 2024, she still has the guitar. Her father played it until his death in 1998 at age 79. Sarah's daughter learned to play on it. Now Sarah's granddaughter is learning. The guitar is worth over $5,000 today, but Sarah has never sold it. It's not about money, she says. It never was. My father taught me that music feeds the soul, and Elvis Presley proved it. This story reminds us that true greatness isn't just measured in record sales, sold-out concerts, or fame. It's measured in quiet moments of grace. A superstar stopping for a crying teenager, listening to her story, and giving more than was asked without expecting anything in return. Elvis Presley was known for his voice, his charisma, his revolutionary impact on music. But those who knew him personally or experienced moments like Sarah Mitchell's remember him for something deeper: his humanity, his ability to see someone in pain and respond with immediate, unconditional generosity. In August 1969, Elvis didn't need to stop for Sarah Mitchell. He had a show to prepare for. He had a career comeback to focus on. But he stopped anyway, because that's what real legends do. They use their power not just to entertain, but to change lives. The $50 guitar that Sarah was selling for a fraction of its worth, it became priceless, not because of its monetary value, but because of the story attached to it. A story of desperation, compassion, and the kind of kindness that echoes through generations. Robert Mitchell lived another 29 years after that surgery. He played music until the very end. He taught his grandchildren to play guitar. And every time he picked up that Gibson J45, he remembered what Elvis had told Sarah. That musicians who teach their children that music feeds the soul are worth more than all the guitars in the world. And he was right.